Welcome one and all to the channel.
We are the Hologrumps, and I was not aware that we'd actually just gone live at this moment. So, we're here today because I've just gotten back from the Bord Gosh Energy Theatre, or rather, the Grand Canal Theatre.
Oh no.
And I've just been to see the William Shatner experience on stage.
Shatner.
And it was a screening of The Wrath of Khan in the auditorium. And after that, a moderator came up on stage.
Oh no, technical difficulties.
Yeah, we're having some technical difficulties
Oh, no.
at the moment.
And
the moderator came up on stage and introduced the audience to William Shatner.
Every single person. And this is Liam, and this is John.
And of course, we weren't allowed to shake his hand because, coronavirus going around. So you could do an old elbow touch.
Yeah, the Vulcan hello.
Yeah, I suppose.
Damn. Wasn't that an episode?
No, he actually finished off the experience when he was saying goodbye to the moderator and did an elbow touch. And just when you said that, it would have been far more appropriate to do a Vulcan
hello,
or a Vulcan salute, so to speak. So, Colin, before I dive into it, do you have any questions about the experience?
I do. Let me get my notepad.
Oh. Yeah, this was kind of a just off the cuff live stream.
I don't even have cuffs. Yeah.
Oh dear.
So, how did Shatner look?
He looked great.
From a distance.
I think the most jarring or eerie thing about when he came out on stage is how young he carries himself and how young he looks. That he's been a part of our culture in Star Trek for over 55 years. That's what he said when he walked out on stage. And I was looking at this man thinking, oh my god, he's so energetic. I mean, he barely sat down. He probably sat down about 3 or 4 times, and the second he'd sit down, it would just be to be asked a question. Then he'd get back up again.
So was he in a good mood?
Yeah, he seemed to be in a very good mood, but that just might be the way he carries on with the audience. He did have some good banter with the audience as well, where Cole Koala has joined the chat. Hello, Cole Koala. I hope you have your tickets booked to see the William Shatner experience. But he did have this good moment where he was talking about I can't remember exactly what he was talking about, but he got interrupted. Oh yes, he was talking about his experience working with other actors, his favorite co-stars.
Yes.
And he said a shared experience that all actors have is walking out on stage and being booed. And as soon as he said this, some woman in the audience goes, "Hey, I'm gonna be a character from Boston Legal," or something like that. And everyone just goes silent, and he goes, and then of course there's that. And everyone abruptly erupted into cheers. But then she shouted out again. He just went, once is funny, 2 not so much, and we do have security here. and luckily
I was really hoping that when you said that she'd actually shout out boo.
Yeah, luckily, or maybe she did boo. It was very hard to make out what she was saying, but no, that was funny. And another moment of levity in the show, he was going in, I think he was talking about fast driving, and he was about to go into this store, and he says, now I was a really good fast driver. I had training. Then all of a sudden, and you just see William Shatner go silent and go, oh shit. And everyone erupts into laughter and cheers again. And he goes, what's it? Did anyone keep track of where all them droplets went? Better be careful now. Just for God's sake, just don't sneeze. Everyone go wash their hands, but it might be too late for that.
So how did it work? So you went in, you had to watch The Wrath of Khan. Not that you had to watch it.
I could have walked in after The Wrath of Khan, I suppose. Nobody would have known. But yes.
You had to watch The Wrath of Khan. What kind of questions did people ask?
So basically they had a moderator who had questions that were already written out by people to ask William Shatner.
Oh. And
he didn't get through all of the questions, but he did get through a lot of them. And it was really any kind of question. I mean, one of the questions he was asked is, who was your sexiest alien that you got to kiss in the series? And he kind of sidestepped this question. He was like, oh, well, how do you define sexy? I mean, I found that strapping bloke with the face that looked like a pine cone to be a rather sexy man, much more sexy than my green alien. And I don't know what he was talking about. I'm sure there were some very funny references in there that might have gone past me, but he did sidestep that question. But the funny thing about when he was being asked questions was people's place, where people were from was written on the questions. So it'd be like John O'Brien from Meath, and William Shatner would be like, sorry, what? From Meath. He's like, how do you spell that? M-E-E... And he's like, M-E-A-T-H. He's like, no, that's not Mead. And he's like, well, I suppose next you have an M-E-A-T-H-A. Me-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha. And it's like, I don't know where he was going with this, but he was in a very funny mood, and it was just brilliant.
So he was only there for one night, was he?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I think it's kind of a touring experience, so...
Yeah.
He's going to be doing it in different areas around Europe. But if anyone is thinking about getting tickets, I would highly recommend it to anyone, because there was just this whole new feeling sitting there watching the Wrath of Khan with a live audience, of course, surrounding you, and with these moments coming up that everyone knew what was going to happen, but you had people cheering.
Did people scream Khan?
Yes. So when of course when Khan traps them in that planet, and he goes, you will be left there behind, James T. Kirk, or whatever.
Buried alive.
Yeah, buried alive. And, of course, he goes, Khan! And then you just hear... And some people were looking around as if to say, well, I don't know, does William Shatner find this funny or not? But he did make a joke about it later on, about the
editing of it was quite funny, because it's like... It was the same shout 3 times, but just further away.
Yeah, coming from the crevice of the moon.
Outside the planet.
Yeah.
So, did the movie live up to your memories of the movie? Or I know it wasn't your favourite.
Yeah, no, but that's what I mean. It far surpassed him. Like, I haven't rewatched The Wrath of Khan in probably about 3 or 4 years. I mean, and a lot has happened to Star Trek since then. And it was phenomenal. Like the scene where it's Kirk's birthday, and Bones gives him the pair of glasses, and Kirk's like, well, what are these? And the scene goes on for probably about 10 minutes, and it is just a masterclass of acting, and all these little subtle lines or facial expressions that one of the actors would make to the other, and you'd feel people laughing or cheering, and it was just a masterclass in acting. And it made me realise how important it is for these scenes of, like, Kirk feels like he's at the end of his life, so to speak, like he's outlasted his usefulness, and he's being cheered up by Bones McCoy, Dr. McCoy, and but the audience understands their chemistry because of all the years they had together in the TV series and in Star Trek the motion picture. And you see the importance of bringing back the characters from their past that the audience resonates with and understands how they work, and when they interact, it's just this magic on screen, which is exactly where the Picard show, of course, went wrong and we saw it in the episode.
By not being magical.
Yes, by not having characters from their past. And we saw in the episode in Nepenthe how the scenes with Riker and Troy, of course, lifted up the whole show.
But the funny thing about Picard versus the Wrath of Khan, just an example, obviously TV series, big difference to a movie. The Wrath of Khan brought back characters that we didn't know about, like his love interest, who he had a child, and we finally had a son. Well, we didn't know any of that, but it worked. Why do you think it worked in Wrath of Khan as opposed to working in Picard?
Oh, well, there was a certain reason in Wrath of Khan that they brought this in, because it was I suppose an exploration of new life, as in the road isn't what he perceives as the end of the road. It's in fact a new beginning, and that lies throughout the entire show or the film, because of course the way the whole project, the Genesis project, is bringing stuff that's either dead or never had life, and
it only works on planets that have no life.
Yeah, but the importance for us to give Kirk, or the importance for Kirk to have a son in this film, was a way of, I suppose it had to have an uplifting ending after the death.
But
of
why
Spock.
did it work in as opposed to Picard? What about Picard then? I suppose was lacking, because it works in this because it builds into the third movie where his son gets killed. But obviously, at that point, they didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah, but they didn't know that.
It's suppose is it giving Picard is it giving Kirk new beginnings? As in, I now have a son.
Well, that was the intention, because of course he lost his best friend Spock in the film, and they didn't know that Spock was going to come back for the search for Spock, of course, because that was one of Leonard Nimoy's stipulations, that he would come back as a director. But why do I think it works for this? Because it has a gel and a blend of the old cast and the new cast, and the old cast are very important in the life of Kirk, and it stays as an ensemble show between him, McCoy, and Spock, and then of course it has the more ensemble cast members like Scotty and Uhura, and
it has all the old characters from the original series, and they seem to be the main characters of it.
Yeah.
With new people being featured people.
Yeah.
I suppose. But how was Shatner as it came to like dealing with the questions? Because you kind of mentioned that he sidestepped.
Oh yeah, no, he was. It was very funny. He'd always go off into a huge tangent, and you'd see one question would come along, then he'd do this. And then as soon as he stood up, you knew that there was a huge spiel.
How old is he now?
Come on, 88 or 89. 80, he was born in 1931, so I suppose 89 now.
89
this year. Yeah, I think it's like May or something like that. His birthday is. I'm not sure.
Sounds like he was in great shape anyway.
Yeah, like he looks great, and but it was very solemn as well, because he told stories about
Nimoy.
About Nimoy, and because he was asked, this is where he was interrupted by a woman in the auditorium, and he was asked a question about who his favorite co-star was, and it was obviously his very
leading question.
Yeah, so he spoke about DeForest Kelley and Leonard Nimoy, and he said something very funny. He was talking about when he was working on Boston Legal with James Spader. He said that at the end of the show, when it was cancelled, he said, God, it's terrible, we have to meet up for a coffee tomorrow, or for the day after, the day after we wrap the show. And of course, then James Spader had to cancel, and then he said, to this day, and since we wrapped up filming, I haven't been in touch with him once, and that's just the way it is as an actor. You feel like you're going to get close and attached to all these people. You make all these plans. God, we gotta meet up again. We'll go for dinner.
Oh, we know that.
Yeah,
we know that.
And it literally, pretty much, it never happens. And but he said it was different for him and Leonard Nimoy, because they had a similar kind of background, upbringing. Like he said, he grew up in Boston. I grew up in Montreal. But just that they were born like 4 days apart, and they both struggled as actors, and of course they landed in Star Trek. But they didn't think that they'd really see each other much after, of course, the Star Trek series wrapped, the original series. And then, of course, they have the motion picture. What was it, 12 years later?
70... It was...
77?
It was before.
It was after Star Wars.
If it was after Star Wars and it was after 77, it was 78 then.
78 or 79. It was when
Paramount
realised that, oh no,
sci-fi's cool.
Yeah, God, what are we going to do? And so then he said that, of course, the cast all got back together again, and then we made the Wrath of Khan, and then they started going to conventions together, and they'd be up on stage together, and Leonard Nimoy would be making him laugh, and then they'd be going to gigs together to talk to fans, and they'd be in limousines just having these deep discussions and conversations, and it just blossomed into this friendship for life. And he said that for the last 3 months of Leonard Nimoy's life, they were just never in touch anymore, and he didn't know why. And he said to this day he doesn't know what happened. That he just wouldn't talk to him. They just weren't talking. And then he got the news that Leonard Nimoy had passed away, and that his funeral was the next day. And of course he was doing a Red Cross fundraising gig the day of that day, so it was either cancel that or go to the funeral, and he continued on with the fundraiser. But it was very solemn, and it was very moving to listen to him talk about these people from his past that are now, like most of the cast of the original series, are gone. Like, we've lost Leonard Nimoy, DeForest Kelly, James Doohan.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Half them gone.
And but then he told another very funny story about DeForest Kelly. About it was just a time that they were in. I actually won't go into it because people might ask these questions if people do go to the concerts or to the experience, and I don't want to spoil it on people, but yeah, no, that was a great experience.
Well, maybe he tells the same story at every convention now.
Maybe that's the thing. Maybe everyone's heard
everyone
these.
thinks, oh God, he's so witty and so funny.
Yeah.
He's telling me, he just makes any question into a tangent into exactly what he wants to talk about.
Yeah. I was thinking it must be difficult to express your opinions coherently when you have such a memory, like such a vast memory of, like, he came out on stage and said, it's amazing coming here to talk to all of you guys in Dublin 55 years after the first episode of Star Trek aired. 55, I mean, if anything new were to come about for a group of young actors, and for them to think, in 55 years I could be in Dublin talking to an audience of thousands of people. Of course, I'll be dead in 55 years, so I won't know who any of these people are. But it's just an amazing thing to think that for over a century now, Star Trek has been this huge part of history, and it really got to you that all of us are sharing in this experience. I know that we're not, of course, in the cast, but you know, every Trekkie out there is part of this phenomenon that's been around for over half a century, and it was really endearing to know that we have this rich culture and mythology, I suppose, that's been built up in Star Trek that can't be taken away by all the problems that we have with CBS.
Did he make any comments about the recent shows?
None.
No comments. No Star Trek Kirk.
No.
Although he did actually say in an article that he's definitely not coming back, but I believe I was told that he made a joke about Patrick Stewart at some point.
He was asked the question, who would win in a fight, Picard or Captain Kirk? And of course the whole audience went into a ooh, and he said, okay, so as I told all of yous, I love horses. And one of the things that I was delighted that they did for me in Star Trek Generations was have the horse riding scene, because I love riding horses. And but he said when he first started riding horses, he did it was either a long trek or it was he filmed something, and he was on the horse for a couple of hours. And at the end of it, he said that there was blood all along his legs and in his shoes and everything, because he didn't have the right Under Armour on his legs, like, you know,
so
the way,
chafing,
chafing. You know, the way riders wear leggings or or women's stockings. So the first time that they were going to film their horse riding scene in Generations, where they'd have the big trek, William Shatner said to Patrick Stewart, you know, you should wear women's stockings for the scene to stop any chafing. And he said, Patrick Stewart said, oh, thank you, I'll definitely do that. So they're coming out of the dressing room in costume, getting ready to film their scene. William Shatner walks out of the corridor. Then out of the next door pops Patrick Stewart, dressed as Jean-Luc Picard, and he's wearing women's stockings over his uniform. So he said, so who do you think would win in a fight? I just gestured to the legs.
I always thought Kirk would win in a fight.
Yeah, of course, we all thought, but in terms of brute force, that
Kirk got in a fight every single episode.
Yeah, he was very.
He wrote the book on Star Trek fights. Literally just.
He did mention Vasquez rocks, and I wanted to shout out the Gorn, but no, there was no mention of the Gorn.
Yeah.
Another thing that he brought up about oh no, wait, it's gone. Maybe it'll come back to me. It was about Picard and who would win in a fight. Oh damn! It's at the tip of my tip of the old head, and it's It's quite funny, but it's
Well, I guess you're
it's
just not. You
escaped
just don't have the memory that Will Shatner has. Oh, Bill, did
No.
you say Shatner to him? Shatner,
no.
Shatner. Yeah. I'm sad I missed out on that experience. I didn't get to see good old Will from a very far away, little tiny Will.
Well, no, it wasn't that far away. He wasn't a little dot in the distance. But
Which one is he?
it was a shared cultural experience that I wasn't prepared for, because like, you could the amount of sniffling and in the scene where Spock dies, despite everyone knowing that he's not actually dead. It was gut wrenching. Like the amount of people there that probably saw this film when it came out in cinema.
Yeah.
And they were reliving these moments that they had in the cinema at that time.
Actually, yeah. What was the audience made up of? People, obviously, but
I was surprised by how young people were. Like, there were a lot of probably people in their late 50s and 60s, but there were a lot of young people. I saw kids there as well. Maybe they were just dragged by their parents, but if the kids don't enjoy Star Trek, it'd be a very random thing to drag your kids along to see the William Shatner experience.
because Star Trek is so wordy compared to Star Wars, you know.
Yeah.
Although Wrath of Khan is probably the best of the original movies for kids. That and Voyage Home, they're two things that they can identify with. Look, there's whales, or look, explosions in space.
The funny thing is about Khan, he comes across as very well. They say it in the film, obviously, that he's
Superior,
two-dimensionally visioned.
Oh yes, he's fighting on a two-dimensional plane. He doesn't realize that ship can go like that.
And what's it? Yeah, it's funny the change that they have in Star Trek Beyond is in Wrath of Khan.
Into
Khan,
Darkness.
Into Darkness. Sorry, Khan is just. He's outrageously intelligent in that.
But the difference in that is that he's actually been around for a while. He's been woken up for a while.
Yeah.
And he's not been marooned on it.
And of course, the marooning and the loss of his wife, sends him on the Captain Ahab quest. That's
Revenge.
That's so dominant in Star Trek.
Consistently, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Seems to be their best story that they tell. The old Ahab as well.
Yeah. So do you have any other questions regarding the show?
I don't think I do. I think we'll leave it there. But if, for whatever reason, it happens to be in the person watching's state or country, would you recommend they go see it?
I would highly, highly, highly recommend it. And I'm good you didn't come along, because I wasn't expecting how powerful this was going to be to see. I mean, again, it's just some guy. It's, of course,
some dude.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say about William Shatner. He said this thing that everyone kind of laughed and chuckled about. He said that he was getting ready to go to work, and he was getting all dressed up into his gear. He brought his gear home to shoot one of the scenes for Wrath of Khan, and he decided he'd get dressed at home instead of going to the makeup department. And he said, okay, so here I am, all dressed up and ready to go. Of course, I'm Captain Kirk. And it was this, and he goes, and it's so funny to think that we're looking at the guy in the auditorium who is actually
the guy in the movie.
He's actually Captain Kirk. As in, he says, I'm all ready to go, I'm Captain Kirk. And you're thinking,
he is.
Oh, he is Captain Kirk. It's not just some guy that's dressed up in a costume, or I know he's an actor playing the character, but he can actually say, I'm Captain Kirk.
Yeah, him and Chris Pine. Yeah.
Well, that's like saying him. That's like saying Ethan Peck and Leonard Nimoy can say they're Spock.
Yeah, they can.
They can, but
they can though. That's the thing.
One is a cultural phenomenon that spawned such great things as William Shatner singing the Bilbo Baggins song.
Oh yes, Bilbo.
Whereas you wouldn't have Ethan Peck having a niche market of doing things like that.
Not yet.
Not yet. Well, it depends how CBS treats Spock moving forward. If we don't get more of the laughing, dancing and singing Spock.
Yeah. From Vulcan, hello. Anyway, we'll close it out there, Liam. So you definitely would recommend it to people.
Excelsior!
He's not Stan Lee.
I know. I'm joking.
They're all the same. All those old
they're all them sci-fi and fantasy comic book things. Good old Marvel, Star Trek comics.
Alright, so if you like what you saw here, if you enjoy what you see, give us a like, give us a subscribe. Tune in on Thursday for our live Picard review. It's going to be very fun. I have a bad feeling about it. And so does Liam, I'm guessing.
Oh God, I completely forgot about it. I was so wrapped up in good Star Trek that I forgot.
Well, anyway,
yes.
we're gonna be back on Thursday with a live review. Friday we'll have our edited review where we really vent our frustrations. But
unless it's good. It won't be good.
Let's not lie. We can't lie. Anyway, I've been Colin.
And I've been Liam.
And remember, existence is futile.